Hello, fellow story champions. My name is Simon Brooks. Welcome to Lindyline, a story podcast. Here you will find old stories, some written by the likes of Kipling and Robert Louis Stevenson, E. Nesbit and Louise Saunders, as well as ancient folk tales and fairy tales, retold for a modern audience of families. There are also original short stories I've penned myself. I will be reading some of the classic folk and fairy tales, along with some other stories that you may not be so familiar with. It was so hot today that Moe, my wonder dog, and I didn't get as far as we wanted to get on our hike. We got as far as a deliciously cool pool, half covered in a canopy of trees. This is a different kind of canopy from the finger food canapé you eat, a little bread or pastry couch you put yummy food in. Our canopy was made of leaves and less edible, and it was so hot there was no way I would be climbing up a tree, even if there were tiny pastries up there. When Moe made it clear she wasn't walking anymore, we sat by the pool on a couch-shaped rock. I lay down with my head close to the water, and even just being that close helped cool us down. Every once in a while, Moe would lean over the rock and lap up some water. It was cold and refreshing, but I had my own flask of cold water without bugs and whatnot in it, so I drank from that. I heard this plump noise, and Moe started barking like crazy. I thought it might have been a fish jumping, but turned to see a head in the pool. It wasn't scary, it was just floating there, smiling at me. "Hello," it said. "Hello," I replied, not sure what else to say to a head floating in a pool. I wondered if its name was Bob, but didn't dare ask. I tried to calm Moe down and get her to stop barking, and just as she was settling down, another head popped up, and then a third. I'm very happy to say that there were no more heads after this third one. Moe eventually settled down as the heads bobbed in the water and moved in circular movements about the pool, never getting where the water slid out over the rock shelf. How did you, get here?" I asked. Is this your home?" "Oh, it is now," said one of the heads. "But it wasn't always our home," said another. Not at all. We came from miles and miles away. Perhaps you've heard of us?" asked the third. I thought about all the stories I knew or had heard of, and one popped out. "You're not the three heads in a well, are you?" "We are," they all called together in glee. The first spoke. "So, do you know the story?" "Not really, only that a young girl found three heads in a well, and she combed their hair and washed their faces." "Wait, do you need your faces washed and hair combed?" "I can wash your faces, but I can't comb your hair, except with my fingers." "You don't really know the story?" "Not really," I confessed. "Then let us tell it to you," said the third head. To be honest, there was a lot going back and forth. One would correct another. Sometimes they seemed to argue for a very long time over some very small details. Other times they would just laugh for what seemed like no reason whatsoever. But they eventually got the story told. And this is what they said. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, there was a head with golden locks looking up through the clear waters of a well when a shadow fell upon it. "A guest, a visitor for us," it thought, and bobbed up to the surface. Blinking in the bright light of day and spinning around searching, it saw, sitting on a stone, a rather plain girl. "Hello," called out the head. "Hello," replied the girl, who apparently was not at all distraught, upset, so nonplussed one could say she was, well, plussed, not frightened by the head, floating in the well. The head bobbed. "Would you wash me, comb my hair, then lay me down safely on the bank to dry so that I might appear presentable to any folk who walk by?" "Yes," said the girl. She gently lifted the head from the water and placed it in her lap. She cupped water and bathed the face, pulling off moss and gently washing off the slime. At first she used her fingers to untangle the hair, then pulled a comb from her pocket and began to pull it through the head's hair with great care. "What brings you here?" asked the head. "My father recently got remarried. My mother died a few years ago." The head waited for more, but since the girl remained quiet, it spoke again. "That is often the way of these things, but it doesn't explain why you're here." "Yes, I know. It's my new mother. She appears gracious and beautiful on the outside, but inside she is cruel and cares for none other than herself. Not even my father, not her own daughter. Neither of them see this. My new mother and her daughter, my stepsister, set my father against me, so I asked him if I could leave. He told me to ask my stepmother for a dowry, which she gave me, a loaf of dry bread and a bottle of dandelion and burdock to drink." "That's not much of a dowry. Your family must be poor." The girl lifted the head and looked at it straight in the eyes. "On the contrary, my father is the King of Colchester, and we are indeed very wealthy." "I'm sorry that you've been treated so poorly. Could you please place me on the grassy bank with my face turned towards the marigold flowers there?" The head indicated with its eyes where to place it. "Of course." The princess placed the head on the bank next to the flowers, facing them. As she laid it down, a second head popped up and requested the same as the first, to be cleaned and combed and placed where folk pass by. As she took the head from the well, the first head told the second head about the princess. "Surely there is more to this tale. And as to what brings you here, I couldn't help overhearing what you were saying." "Of course." She removed rotting weeds from the face and the ears of the second head and continued. "With this dowry of bread and drink, I made my way into the world. It's a very different place from where I grew up with all the finery that filled my life. For days I walked and eventually met a strange man, sitting at a cave entrance. He asked what I had in my bag, and I told him a bottle of dandelion and burdock and some dry bread. I asked if he wanted to share it with me, and he said yes. So I spread out on the ground my travel cloak. It was like a blanket, and we shared what little I had." "Oh, that was generous of you, given how little you had." "It seemed it was more than he had, so it was easy enough to do. After we had eaten, he gave me a—" The girl reached into her bag and pulled out a twig. "He gave me this wand," she said, "and told me about a thorny hedge that I would not be able to pass through, and to use the wand to open it up by striking the hedge thrice, and there I would find this well. He told me to do as you bid, and here I am, doing as you bid, washing and combing." She smiled and placed the second head next to the first. At this point the third head popped up and bobbed on the surface. The girl reached for the third head before it even asked to be cleaned and combed. "I'm guessing you would like your face washed and your hair combed also?" "Oh, thank you, I would, yes." And while she did that, the first two heads told the third head all they knew about the princess and how she had come to be there. When the third head was washed and combed and placed on the bank with the others, she asked if they needed any refreshment, for there was still a little bread and a little drink left. "We need nothing, thank you. You eat and drink to your content." So the princess ate what little there was left of the food, finished the drink, and lay down in the grass. Bathed in sunlight, she fell asleep, and the three heads began to talk. "We should give her a gift." "We should. Although she is a princess, it seems she has nothing. What shall we give her?" "I will make her more beautiful," said the first. "Why beauty? It means nothing." "Oh, that's true. I will bestow on her confidence, so she sees the beauty inside herself." "Oh, much better. And I will give her the voice of an angel." I like that gift. That's a good one. "I will give her the gift of good fortune, so she can make her way in the world more easily." And so it was. When she woke, the three heads asked to be placed back in the well, and smiled at the girl, as if they knew her fortune was going to be fantastic, and looked forward to seeing it with relish. The princess thanked the three heads for their company and set off once more into the world. Onwards, always onwards. Yet she didn't really notice her inner beauty shining through her whole body as if she were the sun itself. Coming through a clearing, a young man riding a horse caught sight of her and asked why she was travelling alone in this wild place. "Are you all right, young woman? Do you require help? It's unusual for anyone to be in the forest alone." "Be that as it may, you too are alone in the forest." Well, that's true, the man smiled. The princess wanted to test the mettle and the character of the man, so told him she had become lost and was looking for such and such a place, and could he help her? Oh, of course, give me your hand and you can ride up here with me. The man held out his hand and reached down. I'm fine walking, thank you. Then I shall walk by your side. And so the horse was led by its reins, and the two walked and talked. They talked a lot, discovering that they had much in common. Still, the young woman did not notice the light that she gave off, and when they talked about music and she sang, she wondered at how her voice seemed better. Maybe it was the acoustics of the forest, she thought. And as they talked, the young man discovered that she was the King of Colchester's daughter. I have heard that he misses you greatly. I know him, well, of course not as well as you do, but he has visited my own father's realm on many occasions. The young man was, of course, a prince. He led them to his father's kingdom and sent word to the princess's father that she was well. They, in return, received word that the King of Colchester wanted to see his daughter again, so they paid a visit to the King of Colchester. The girl's father was overjoyed to see her. Her stepmother and stepsister, however, were not so thrilled. The stepdaughter saw the handsome prince who had brought her sister home and wanted such a fortune for her own self. She asked her sister how she had met him. Oh, I set off to the east. I met a man who told me of a hedge behind which is a well with 3 heads. Soon afterwards I met the prince. Sooner than a cow could shake its tail 3 times, the stepsister ordered luggage packed, horse saddled, and set off on her own. With her she took fine travelling clothes and boots, a basket of food, and a saddlebag filled with bottles of delightful things to drink. She took the same road as the princess and met the man outside the cave. He waved and smiled at her. Why do you travel so quickly? You miss the beauty of this world that you pass. What's it to you, old man? Oh, what do you have in your bags? Nothing that concerns you. You know of a hedge? I do, it is that way, but the stepsister rode off without listening to what the man had to say. And as he watched her ride off, he spoke to himself, shaking his head. Oh, there is only ill luck that will follow that one. The stepsister came to a huge hedge that seemed to stretch for miles in either direction. She kicked the horse, but it refused to budge. The horse would not leap over the hedge, nor press through it. So the stepsister climbed off its back, tied it up, and forced her way through the thorns and branches. They cut and tore at her clothes and shoes. The branches pulled at her hair and scratched her skin, but she broke through and found the well. Cursing her horse, she splashed water on her cuts, cleaned herself off, and looked at her reflection to calm and control her hair. Imagine her surprise when a head popped up and bobbed on the surface and asked, "Would you wash me and comb my hair and put me on the bank of the grass over there?" "Wash you?" she snorted. "I think not." She broke a branch from the hedge and beat the head so it sank, and she did the same with the other 2 heads when they showed their faces. After her journey, battle through the hedge, and the shock of the 3 heads in the well, she was exhausted. She lay down on the marigolds and fell asleep. Seeing her shadow above vanish, the 3 heads carefully popped back up to the surface and saw her sleeping there. Well, she wasn't very nice, was she? Not at all. We should not give her gifts. Au contraire, we should give her the most unexpected gifts. For example, I will gift her a shabby face. Ooh, I like this. Then I will give her the voice of a frog. And you? I like that, voice of a frog. I'll give her the marriage to a poor cobbler. When the stepsister awoke, the 3 heads sensibly hid beneath the water, and she was thankful she could not see them. Making her way onward, she eventually reached a town. When people saw her, they screamed and ran from her. When she tried to speak, the stepsister could not believe her voice. It sounded awful, as if she was speaking through gravel. She went to the town well and poured up some water to clean herself. In the bucket, she saw her face was covered in scabs. Her nose was, well, blobby, wobbly, and large, and her ears were huge. No matter how much she drank, she could do nothing to fix her voice. how she wished for her horse so she could ride off and hide. She heard a noise and looked up. Where everybody else had fled, there before her was a man. He had seen her tattered clothes, ruined face, and heard her unusual voice, which had caused all but him to flee. He saw sadness and fear in her eyes. He looked down at his bag of tools. There were 2 things in there a hermit had given him for payment for fixing the leather binding of a book. Not leather, not thread, nor needles or hammer, not any tool, but a jar of ointment and a small jar of medicine. He approached the mean stepsister and asked if he could put ointment on her face, and told her that maybe the medicine would help her voice. She agreed to try both, and he offered her somewhere to stay. The cream they used began to fix the scabs on her face, although it did nothing for her nose and ears, and the medicine improved her voice somewhat, and she fell in love with this poor cobbler who looked after her so well. And they married, and he taught her how to mend and make shoes. Away from the influence of her mother, she began to change into a nice person, grew and blossomed into a fine human being, and they lived meagerly and happily together. Back in Colchester, the king began to see the true character of his wife. He saw the mean-spirited side of her more and more. He heard rumours about the way she treated not just the staff but guests, and of the things she said about people behind their backs, the way she manipulated people. And when she heard that her daughter had married a poor cobbler, she was so angry she went insane. She climbed on a horse and rode off, never to be seen again. The king stayed in close touch with his cobbler stepdaughter and watched her blossom and grow and become a fine human being. And the princess and the prince, they did not marry, although it is said that they lived happily ever after. The heads that I saw in the pool, they never told me their names because at the end of telling their story, Moe wanted to go home. I had an apple in my bag and a pocket knife, and so in return for the story I cut the apple into 3 pieces and cored it and gave each head a third of it. Then Moe and I headed home. After they had finished their story, I then knew it, and now I have told you the story, so you know it too. Now, I've seen frogs and fish in pools before, and those insects that skate over water, and the occasional soccer ball. Have you ever found something cool or unusual floating in a well, pond or pool? Let me know. I would love to hear. Take care of each other and listen out for more stories, and if you hear a good one, let me know. Bye. Thanks for listening to Lindyline. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I will be back soon with some more stories and maybe a few poems. By simply subscribing, giving stars and telling your friends about this podcast helps. What helps more is leaving a review or starring on Podbean and Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this, as it helps others find these stories, and it also helps me. Most podcasters have advertisers, and we don't. If you want to drop the price of a dog biscuit for Moe and the cost of a cup of tea for me, that would be lovely. It's hungry work out in the woods. You can also become a Patreon and pay as little as $1 to as much as you think it was worth. If you become a Patreon patron at www.patreon.com/Simon Brooks, you will get extra resources and other goodies too, including the occasional photograph or 2 of Moe, my wonderful rescue dog, and photographs of our adventures together. #InTheWoodsWithMoe. You can find me on Instagram at Simon M. Brooks, which is also my Substack handle. Be well, be happy, and be you.